everybody, here's another video kind of chronicling the 40 breeder. I have been battling a little bit of blackbeard algae and green spot algae. Figured I'd give the whole hydrogen peroxide method a try. I didn't even come close to the maximum amount I could dose, mainly out of paranoia. I didn't want to do anything to hurt the animals because their well-being is first and foremost. I just wanted to make things a little bit better for the plants, though, at the same time. So as you can see right here, I'm spraying some hydrogen peroxide on the S. repens with a spray bottle. Kind of being careful not to spray any of the animals directly as best as I could. There is getting some blackbeard algae that's growing on the windlove Java fern. This is a kind of a common method to getting blackbeard algae off. I'm unsure if it works at all with green spot because green spot is so hard and so stubborn. But I figured I'd just give it a try anyway. You know, it's an oxidizer. You could actually see the bubbles right there coming off near the S. repens where it's oxidizing. So that's good. That's kind of what you want it to do. You know, I had the fish swimming around, kind of stressing them out, and I felt kind of bad. But, you know, desperate times call for desperate measures. As you can see, I did add some new plants. Right there to the left near the driftwood, I have some Alternanthera reneki. It's the cardinalis version. It's actually the PetSmart tissue culture pouch, which was about 11 bucks for 3 big clumps. Once it grows in more, I'm actually going to cut it and separate out the stems to do a little bit more of a proper planting for them. It's actually quite a few stems, but I wanted to grow them out a little bit and see how well they could establish to my tank first. There in the back in the middle, you can see pogostemon. I was sold that plant as pogostemon stellatus, but I'm not sure it is because the nodes aren't purple. Somebody said that it looks more like the less demanding Octopus version, which is fine with me. Still pretty fast growing and can help balance out nutrient load, which is a reason why I'm going to be doing a massive water change, as you'll see later. I also added some micro chain sword to kind of hopefully carp it out a little bit. Here's the water change. The water in the bucket's 82.5 degrees, which almost perfectly matches the tank. It was 82.7, and it's been dechlorinated. I'm doing the filter maintenance right here. A lot of people use tank water, which is honestly the right way to do it. However, sometimes I find that it's easier to use dechlorinated water, which is the biggest reason why you're using tank water to begin with, is because it's already dechlorinated. It's, you know, it's already fish safe and bacteria safe. You don't have to worry about temperature or anything like that. So, you know, it's easier for a lot of people, probably even most people, to just use tank water. I sometimes go with the dechlorinated method of just temperature matching the water, and I haven't had an issue with that whatsoever cleaning out any of my filters. But sometimes I'll use tank water, sometimes I'll go with that method. The biggest thing is just to make sure that you don't kill the bacteria. As you can see here, the biological media is pretty filthy. You know, little particulates and everything floating in it, and don't want it to get clogged, so you slosh it around. As you can see from the previous basket, I have a bag of 250 mils of Purigen. And previously I was using 2 100 ml pouches that you can get on Amazon, or I think Petco carries it, you know, various vendors. And I actually find that for some reason, using the 250 mils from the bottle versus those pre-portioned pouches has been lasting me a lot longer. I can't explain it. It's all Purigen. It should, you know, logically last the same amount of time, but it just doesn't. So this is how I have my mechanical filtration set up. I have a 100 micron filter pad right there that catches all the really tiny stuff, and then there's the polishing pad. Squeeze it out into the bucket because these buckets go to my apple trees in my front yard that I'm growing out. They're about 5 feet tall, and the nutritious fish water seems to help them a lot. That is the Marine Land, I'd consider it medium foam. I decided to throw it out. It wasn't completely clogged yet, but I wasn't sure it was going to last another month, and I only do my canister filter about once a month. The coarse foam, you pretty much never have to replace unless it's falling apart on you. You know, just kind of coming apart and being gross and causing problems. If it's not doing that, you never really have to replace it. And it does house a good deal of beneficial bacteria, so I like to just rinse it off in the water, set it aside, and get the mucky muck off the tray as much as I could. Doesn't need to be perfect, just needs to be to the point where it's not going to restrict anything or inhibit water flow. It's kind of tough doing this with one hand, but yeah, I figured it was important to chronicle in this whole journey. I know this information is really nothing new to most people. You know, this is pretty standard aquarium husbandry, but you know, the basics are always worth remembering. So I had pre-cut this pad wrong, so technically it's supposed to go blue side down, white side up, but whatever, I just flipped it, and there you go. So in the next bit here, I'm going to use some polyfill from an old pillow. I know it's safe. It doesn't have the flame retardant stuff on it because I tested it, and I've used it in other fish tanks, and it's fine. So I just fill that, and I had to use both hands for that, so it cuts out here. And it's going to go to a time lapse of the water change itself, which time lapse condensed it pretty quickly. Kind of impressed. Since I did such a huge water change, I double dosed prime, and I added equilibrium there at the end, and you'll see, you know, it's all temperature matched with the Python. It's amazing little tool. The equilibrium just kind of puts the minerals back in the water because it's naturally soft, and there you go.